Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In this tutorial we are going to demonstrate the use of various selection tools inside Adobe Photoshop. So we're going to start by opening this file here. You can open any image you want, and to be able to work with this, with the file or the layer, I'm going to unlock it. Okay, and as we said, it's always a good practice to name your layers. So we have several selection tools and techniques in Adobe Photoshop. We are going to start by demonstrating all of them, or let's say most of them. So we're going to start with the Rectangle Marquee tool, and this is simply selecting a rectangle area, and then you can move your selection as you want. When you have a selection area, you can copy the selection area and paste it. You see, now it's pasted in a separate layer. I will delete. You can cut if you want, or you can go to the move tool and move it, and this is also gonna do a cut directly for you. It's always a good idea to use shortcuts. So press V for the move tool, press M for the rectangle and circular marquee tool. So this is the selection that you made. Now the how to add and delete from your selection, which can be applied to all selection tools. If you press Shift and you draw another marquee tool, this is going to add to your selection, as you can see here. If you press and hold Alt and click, this is going to subtract from your selection. If you don't, or if you do not prefer to use shortcuts, you can use them from here. You see, you can add to your selection without holding any shortcuts. Anyway, if you don't have a keyboard, this is going to be useful for you. Okay, and this is going to subtract, and the other one is intersection, and this is going just to keep the intersection between two selections, as you can see here. Or you can go to the normal mode. As I said, it's always a good practice to use the shortcuts, because it's gonna save you a lot of time, especially in big projects. So the other selection tool that you can select also using the shortcut by holding Shift and M is the Circular or Elliptical Marquee tool. So this is exactly the same thing, but it is going to select on an elliptical or circular shape. Now if you want to keep the or make a perfect selection circle, you have to press Shift and then draw your elliptical selection tool. This is going to select a perfect circle. This is going to be also applies to the marquee tool if you want to select exactly a square shape. If you want to start from this point exactly, so you keep this point that you are starting the selection from in the center, you need to press Alt, and as you can see, this is going to be the center of your selection. Pressing Shift also, this is going to make it a complete circle, and this is very useful. For example, if you want to select some shapes like this, so you click Alt and Shift, and you're going to select exactly this circle here. Okay, of course you need to keep them clicked until you let go the mouse, so don't let go the keyboard shortcuts before the mouse. So now this is your selection. As I said, you can press V to go to the selection tool, and then you cut it and you move it somewhere else, or you can press Alt and move it, and this is going to make a copy of your selection. Okay, you need to remember these shortcuts anyway. Control Z, and I'm gonna fit on screen again. To deselect everything, you need to click Control D. As I said at the beginning, there are always several methods or ways to do the same task, and you can select which one of them that you prefer. Many of the techniques that I do here in the selection can be done from the select menu, like the deselect layers, okay? Or you can select all layers. So now you have below this marquee and elliptical, rectangle and elliptical selection tool, you have a single row marquee tool and a single column selection tool, and this is if you want to select a single row, you can click this, and if you want to select a single column, you can click this, and this is sometimes useful if you want to create a single line. Now you might say, how can I create a single line from a selection? You see, when you do a selection, let me go to the marquee tool, which is better gonna demonstrate the idea. You see, when you create a selection, while your selection tool is still selected, you can right click and select fill or stroke. You can select many things, but we are gonna go through fill and stroke this time. So when you go to stroke, you see you can add a stroke to your selection, and you can set the width of the stroke and the color and the location, blending modes, and opacity. So for example, I'm gonna keep it a little bit, high value, not 55.5, and you see you have inside and center and outside. Inside means your stroke will be inside the selection, outside the selection, center it's going to be centered inside. So let us try it quickly. So you see this is going to be inside your selection as you saw here, but if you right click and go to the stroke and select outside, this is going to be outside your selection. And I guess you got the idea, when you go stroke and center, this is going to be the selection going to be centered. Okay, you can also right click and fill if you want, and as I said, you can fill with white, with background color, with a color of your choice, with a content aware, with a pattern, or from a history. So let's just go and select a color, and I'm gonna select this turquoise color, and I'm gonna press OK, and this is gonna fill it. Let's go back and see what's happened. Oh, the opacity, it's changed to 1%, so this is why you didn't see the fill. Now you have the fill of your selection. Of course, it's gonna remove everything beneath it, because it's gonna be a solid layer. So this was the simplest selection tool, the Marquee tool, and I'm gonna undo. I'm gonna deselect, and we're gonna try the Lasso selection tool. And the Lasso selection tool, also we have 3 tools embedded within the selection tool. And as I said before, when you have this little triangle to the bottom right corner, it means you can see other options inside this tool. So the Lasso selection tool, the Lasso, it's just freehand drawings. You can draw anything around your object, and you might not be able to be very accurate using the mouse. If you have a drawing pad, this is going to help you in making your selection. But anyway, this is very useful for free selection areas, okay, not like rectangular or circular areas. And you have the other one is the Polygonal Lasso tool. As the name implies, it's going to select your area using polygonal drawings. So you can click this point here and click here, and then I can click, you see, polygons. I'm drawing lines around my selection areas that I want. Of course, it doesn't need to be a straight line. You see, you can create any kind of line you want. You can press the delete key to reverse your points or to undo the selection if you made a bad selection. For example, you don't want to go here. You said, oops, I'm wrong. So you can just click delete, and when you go all the way, you can go all the way to the first point. To lock it, you see this little circle icon with your Polygonal Lasso selection. When you click, that's it, you have your selection, and as usual, you can do whatever you want to do with it. You can copy it, paste it, move it, add a fill, add stroke, or even convert it to a path. Okay, and anyway, as we said, we are going to go through some of these in the future videos. So the other one, which is very useful, which is the Magnetic Lasso tool. As the name implies, it's gonna jump to your points as you move. Okay, so I'm gonna just zoom in a little bit. If I'm zooming using the shortcut Control Alt and click. If you wanna zoom out, Control Alt space. Zoom in, Control space. Only with a click, of course. So you see, when you click here, you move. As you can see here, the application or the Photoshop is just creating a point that matches the color, the border color of your selection. You can click manually the points if you want, or you can move faster. You can press the space to use the pan tool and move around you see, it is very accurate and very helpful tool. Again, you can click if you want. You can click here. You see, I can, oops, I moved away. I'm gonna press the delete key. Okay, just like with the polygonal, just to reverse my selection. Okay, oops, delete, 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 delete. So I'm gonna click here I'm gonna click. You see, I made a mistake. I went inside, so I will just click delete. Now I need to move a little bit slower. You can click all around the path, along the path, just to keep a record of what colors are you looking for. So you see here, because we have similar colors on both sides, and now we are gonna select this. I think you got the idea. When you reach the end, you can close, and now you have your selection. Of course, you can manipulate your selection from the selection tool. You can go to the modify, you can expand it, you can contract it, you can add feather, which means smoothen the selection out. You see, now you have 5 pixels, you can have 0 pixels, and this is going to produce you an error because the lowest value that you can assign for the feather selection is 0.1. So you see, I'm gonna click. So now your selection, your next selection is going to be have a value of feather, which is 0.1. Okay, as I said, you can do several other things, like you can expand your selection by, let me just go a little bit extreme so you see the result. You see, it's going to expand your selection, or contract it, which goes all the way the reverse order. So this is the lasso selection tool. The other group is the object selection tool, quick, and Majic wand selection tool. The object selection tool is new to Adobe Photoshop 2020, which is a very useful selection tool, and use the AI, let's say algorithms, to make your selection, which is based on Adobe Sensei if you check the Adobe website recently. So the Majic wand selection tool is you just click on a color and Photoshop will try to find similar colors to select from. You see, when you click this gray thing, it's gonna try to find out all levels of the gray color that you selected. You can increase the tolerance to select other or more levels of gray. You see, when I increase the tolerance, for example, to 40, I will just Control D and click. Now I need to increase it maybe even more, let's say 60. Okay, and I'm gonna undo. You see, now you have more levels of gray selected. So you can be very precise or you can be less precise. It depends on your scenario or your task, what you want to do actually. The other one is, of course, you can add using, let me just go a little bit lower. I guess the default one is 32. You see, you can click this and hold shift to add more areas to your selection. For example, I'm going to go to the gray area here, and then I'm going to press shift and select this gray area here, and this gray area here, and this area, and this area, and then I can delete them. Just simply delete all these areas that I don't want from my file. Control Z. I will again go to the history, and I will go back here to the Majic selection tool. I'm going to hit Control D to deselect everything. The second tool here under this group is the quick selection tool, which is not the Majic selection tool. You just click to select. Here you can click and move, and this is going to select similar colors, as you can see here. Okay, but sometimes this will include everything in your selection. You see, when you delete, it's included everything. So anyway, you can hit the left square bracket keyboard shortcut. You see the square bracket key, the left one will change the size of the brush, will make it smaller. The right one will make it larger. The left and right square brackets key from the keyboard. So now you can go and select these colors. Personally, I find this is more useful. Anyway, what are going to be focused on is the object selection tool, which is the new tool for Adobe Photoshop 2020, and this is very powerful tool and very nice tool that can select an object by simply drawing a border over it, a border around it, sorry. You see this object here, I can just draw a border and magically Photoshop will select it for me. you see, without needing to do anything. So also this JavaScript, you can just, you see, it selects the JavaScript, and this is why I said it uses the AI algorithms to do that, to do the process. And this is a very nice tool, simply selecting the objects, and this can be done with even more complex objects, or with not necessarily with this. I'm show you another images. So this graphics design image that we used to do, I will just drop it here. I will fit on screen. Let me just put it here, delete, and I will change it to a pixel color by right clicking and rasterizing the color, rasterizing the layer, sorry. You see, I can select this eye, and simply it's gonna select the eye, and I can delete it if you don't want it. And then you can fill with this color. You press I. We're gonna talk about some tools later on. You can press I, the shortcut, to select the eyedropper tool, select the color, and then B, the brush, make the brush smaller, and then just color, and that's it, the eye is gone. Okay, of course there are several other tools to do this without selecting, deleting, and filling, but we are going to talk about them later on. Of course the shortcut for this is the W, so you can press W, hold shift and W to move around them, and you see you can select this object here, and it is gonna magically select it. You see, even you have some selection here and some selection here. I think that's it for selection tool. I hope this tutorial was useful. Thank you very much. If you have any comments, leave them below. See you next video tutorial, inshallah. Have a nice day.